All right. So far we have been discussing critical theories, and to quickly repeat, critical theories are those theories where uh, scholars are concerned with inequalities. They talk about disparities in the system or in a given culture, and with that, they also ask for reforms. Uh, Political economy theory is one of the critical theories. We began with our introduction of critical theories. I explained what are critical theories. Then we moved to Marxist theory, which is one of critical theories. And next theory that we are discussing today is political economy theory. Let's begin. This is my next slide. Before I start explaining political economy theory, it is very important for us to understand the difference between Marxists and neo-Marxists. I talked about this very briefly in my last class. However, I did not go into the details. Does anyone remember what was that? I remember Vajiha was very attentive to my lecture last time. So was Maida. Ji bache. Does anyone remember what was that? Okay, let me tell you, let me explain, and I would like all of you to focus because I'm going to ask you questions related to that. Give me a minute. Yeah, this was the slide where I was. In Marxist theory, there are these ideas that are very common. All right, I wrote the three terms in the chat box. Umair, can you read the three terms that I just wrote in the chat box? Can you read the three terms, the three words that are popular in Marxist theory? I wrote them in the chat box. Ji Umair.
Sure, ma'am. Base,
Shabash.
superstructure, ideology.
Shabash, very good. Base, superstructure, and ideology. What is base? Let Munisa answer this question. Ji Munisa, what is base according to Marx?
Ma'am, base is a
Munisa,
structure that follows
speak
the
a bit
culture
louder.
or kind of culture is based.
What is base?
Ma'am, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
A little.
Hello.
A little. Yes.
Ma'am, base. I think base is a structure that is based on culture. Like culture is based on a structure, like it is a building kind of. I can't explain it in the words, in the right words.
Munisa, sorry. Maida, can you explain what base is?
Ma'am, base is when little foundations of a society which builds up it trading and things like that, I guess.
Okay, now I'm going to write this again in the chat box. Although this is Gigi, Hassan raised his hand. Hassan, go ahead, please.
Yes, base means the means of production. The factories, these are called the base in Marxist theories, and superstructure means the religion, the schools, the education system.
Shabash.
This is what we call superstructure.
Very good. All right. Base means, base ka matlab hai, base is means of production. For example, let's say a man who owns factory, he has the base, and a factory is a place where other people come to work. Factory is a mean of production, which means factory is a producing unit. It produces different commodities. Similarly, land, a piece of land is another base according to, give me a minute. I accidentally stopped the screen sharing. Okay, can you see my screen again?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
All right, thank you. Give me a minute. Fasi and Fatmeen, you joined late. Please turn on your cameras, otherwise I will not mark your attendance. Fasi Chaudhary,
मैम मेरा कैमरा चल रहा है
I cannot see you.
मैम it's on. Let me do it again.
Okay, thank you. And same is for Daud. Daud, is your camera on? All right, never mind. Rachel, beta, please, everyone, please turn on your cameras and keep your cameras on for the whole time. I was explaining main terminologies in Marxist term. Base is mean of production. If, for example, if I own a media house, let's say a production house, and I have journalists who work in my media house, I have the base, which means I control the mean of production, and journalists are my workers. Now, if can I control journalists, which means can I, well, will they follow if I ask them that this you shouldn't publish this news story, or you should not broadcast this news item? So do I have the capacity to control? Do I have the capability to control if I own the base?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, very good. My journalists are my workers, and I can tell them what they should publish and what they should not publish. This is Marxist theory. In Marx, and I wrote three terms in the chat box: base, superstructure, ideology. I have written base is means of production, and I am again writing wait a minute. Superstructure is culture. I just wrote this in the chat box. Superstructure means culture. For example, schools, education, media, whatever media shows, that is superstructure. In our superstructure, we have movies, dramas, we have content related to anarkali. Anarkali is a production which is specific to Pakistani culture, and that is superstructure. Superstructure means culture of a given area. Marx came with three ideas. Number one, base. I just wrote that in the chat box. Number two, superstructure, which means culture. And number three, ideology. Ideology is just ideas. These are ideas of Marx. And he says those who control base, they also have the power to control superstructure and ideology. I just gave the example. If I run a media house and I have journalists who work there, now I have the capacity to control my journalists because I own the base. I own productive unit. This is Marxist ideology. Now, let me explain how are neo-Marxists different from Marxists. Marx believes that those who control the base have the capacity to control others as well. However, neo-Marxists believe that it's not just the base. You can also exercise control through superstructure, through culture, or through ideology. Now, let me explain this further with the help of an example. For example, according to Marxist ideology, to promote gender equality, one should control a media house. For example, if I control a media house and I use that media house to promote messages related to gender equality, this is how I can promote messages related to gender equality. However, neo-Marxists believe that this control can also come through culture, which is superstructure in Marxist language, and its example is Aurat March. I'm going to write it in the chat box. Aurat March. Now, the proponents or the supporters of Aurat March, they do not own any base. They do not have any media house. but still that is a cultural thing. Aurat March is something that is a sort of resistance that has come through culture. And here comes the argument of neo-Marxists who believe that we can, it's not necessary to control base only. We can also bring change through culture or superstructure or by promoting an ideology. Now, who can quickly revise all of this that I have just explained? That I have just explained the difference between Marxists and neo-Marxists. Who can quickly go over this? Yashva Bache, please turn on your camera. I have asked everyone to turn on cameras. Otherwise, I'll not mark attendance for those students whose cameras are not on. Ji, who can quickly revise what I have just explained? Ji Hassan, were you able to follow the difference between Marxists and neo-Marxists? Can you quickly revise in your own words?
Yes, the Marxist believes that we should control means of production in order to control the society, while the neo-Marxist think that we should control the culture, we should control the media, we should control the education in order to follow the Marxism or impose Marxism in the society.
Very good, Shabash. In other words, let me explain one more time. And this time Usman will explain it further. Usman Ghani. All right. I'm going to explain it one more time. Marxists believe that to bring a revolution, they are critical theory scholars, right? Critical theory talks about inequalities, and they're also talking about inequalities, hierarchies in society. Now, Marx believes that to bring a revolution in a society, one needs to control the base, which is mean of production. However, neo-Marxists believe that to bring a revolution in society, it's not just base that you need to control. You can also bring a revolution, or you can also bring change by controlling superstructure, which is culture. Culture is superstructure in Marxist language, or by controlling ideology. Now, Usman, what did you understand? Can you quickly repeat?
Sure, ma'am. The theory of Marxism is based on three components. One is base, second is superstructure, and the third one is um,
Ideology.
ideology.
Shabash.
Uh, Marx says we cannot control superstructure without having the base,
Very
and
good.
the new Marx says you can control superstructure with some power.
We can bring change. It's not
We can
important
bring
to
change.
have base. Yeah, it's not important to have base or means of production. Change can also be brought through culture, superstructure. Example, I gave example of Aurat March. Another example. Let me give another example. And I would like Fassi to repeat it. Repeat what new Marxists think. I gave the example of this music band, Begharat Brigade. They are famous for their song Alu Ande, and in that song they are criticizing Pakistani society, the way we celebrate our heroes. So Pakistani society does not accept Abdul Salam because of his religious affiliation. Although he was a Pakistani, we do not give him credit for his scientific endeavors because of his religious affiliation. And they also criticize Pakistani society for being too harsh or critical toward Malala Yousafzai. Now you see, this is a sort of change that is coming through culture, through a media artifact, through song, through music. Now, this is how neo-Marxists are different from Marxists. To repeat, neo-Marxists believe change can be brought through superstructure or ideology. Marxist scholars believe in order to bring change, one needs to control base, mean of production. Fassi, does this all make sense to you?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Can you just repeat it in a sentence? or two?
Ma'am, the Marxists say that we need to control everything from the base to bring a change,
Very
while
good.
the neo-Marxists believe that a change can be brought from the culture and superstructure, which is meant to be culture in the form of this language. Neo-Marxists and
Very good.
Marxists.
Very good. Shabash. I'm
And
glad.
you gave the example of that band Brigade, and they were criticizing the government and
Shabash.
Pakistan.
Shabash. All right. I just wrote another message. Taimur Rahman from Lums. Yes, Taimur Rahman, he runs Lal. I think that's the name of his band, Lal. He's also a neo-Marxist. Very good. Stuart Hall, in scholars, Stuart Hall is another example of neo-Marxist scholars. The same Stuart Hall whose theory of encoding and decoding we learned. I believed I have explained the difference between Marxists and neo-Marxists. All right. Sorry, I went to my last slide mistakenly. Two main strands of neo-Marxism are cultural theorists, number one, and number two, political economy theorists. Cultural theorists are those who believe that to study our surroundings or to study phenomenon, it is important to study culture. And political economy theorists are those that we are studying today. So let's discuss what is political economy theory. And again, I would like you all to be attentive because I will ask you, Rachel, bete, please turn on your camera because I'll ask you to repeat this to me shortly. All right, I was on this slide. What is political economy theory? Let's see what we have here, and then I'll explain this further with the help of an example. Political economy theorists, they study elite control of economic institutions such as banks and stock markets, and then show how this control affects many other social institutions, including the mass media. All right, this is what we have read. Let me explain this now with an example, and it will become understandable to you. How many of you are familiar with Pakistani network? Its name is Bol. They run a TV channel with this name, Bol.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, almost everyone is familiar. G. Usman, Nassam, you do not know about Bol TV?
Yes, ma'am, I know about
We all
Bollywood.
know.
You do, you
Yes,
all
ma'am.
do. It's a very famous channel. Bol, when it started, it was run by Shoaib Ahmad Sheikh. I think that's the name of his the
Yes,
owner.
ma'am. Shoaib Ahmed Sheikh, the owner of exact company.
Yes, very good. He was also the owner of Exact Company. When the scandal of Exact was unfolded, their license was cancelled, and they again started their transmission in late 2016. But anyways, so if I invite you to search his profile, he is a businessman. Now, and Bowl is not the only channel which is run by like a corporation or by businessmen. There are other channels too in Pakistan that we have that are run by that are run in a corporation style, that are run by businessmen. Now, what kind of consequences does it bring? Now, what I'm going to say is very important, and I would like you all to be attentive and pay attention to this. Now tell me that, do we expect media to perform public service message for us? Like, do we expect media to serve us? I mean, serve us in the sense that media should inform us, media should educate us, media should entertain us. This is public service. They are serving people, they are serving public by performing all of these messages. Now, but the problem is when media is controlled by businessmen, they have their profit motives, they have their commercial motives that come before their public service messages. Does it all make sense? And in those kind of circumstances, can we really expect them to perform a public service message for us? This is a question that political economy theory addresses. Let me go to my next slide, and then I will ask for your clarification. In certain respects, political economists accept the classic Marxist assumption that the base dominates the superstructure. Classic Marxism is that base is heavy, like base is dominant. If you own base, you can control. The focus of political economy theories is on how the process of content production and distribution are economically and industrially constrained. One more example, and then I'll come to you to determine your understanding. We all are familiar with talk shows in Pakistan, Pakistani TV channels, especially political talk shows that are broadcast during prime time, and political talk shows where they discuss issues of political and national importance. But with that, they also have a bunch of comedians, and they sort of make fun of issues, serious issues. Now, such kind of presentation of serious issues is problematic to me. It may not be problematic to you, however, it is to me. Okay, I do not deny the fact that in these programs, do you know what kind of programs I'm talking about? Talk shows. Gigi?
The infotainment kind of shows.
Yes.
Ma'am, Hasbe Hal type.
Very good, Shabash. The kind of programs where the host sits with a bunch of comedians and they take up an issue, and then they sort of they discuss it. They do discuss it, but with that they also laugh at it. To me, one of responsibilities of media is to uplift the taste of people. One of the responsibilities and one of the service of media is to raise public taste, and I do not think if they are doing the right job. But one more thing, another example of talk shows, you see people fighting with each other, you see political opponents coming up with diverging arguments, and they start fighting. And I know majority people, they see such programs for entertainment. I mean, whether these programs are giving any solid food for thought, or they are really educating people the way they should, let's forget about it. I know several people in my family who watch these programs for entertainment, not for information. Yeah, information is a sort of subsidiary thing, a byproduct, but they mainly watch these programs for entertainment. Let me give you another example. This happened few years ago. I was in a workshop, a sort of workshop or a conference where many senior journalists were there. They were there to train young journalists, and there I met Iftikhar Chaudhary. Iftikhar Chaudhary is famous Pakistani TV host, anchor person, and he's famous for his aggressive style. And I asked him a question that why is it that why have you structured your program in a way that people from different parties come and they fight and you get aggressive and all that sort of thing? And his answer was, my producer, my program producer, my channel owner, my bureau chief wants ratings. They want ratings because they want advertisements. And that was his answer. Now, do you think all of this conversation aligned with what political economy theorists are arguing? The focus of political economy theorists is on how the processes of content production and distribution are economically and industrially constrained. What do we do with a media channel or a media house that is more concerned about getting higher ratings of programs so that they can attract more advertisers, so that they can make more money, instead of performing a public service program for people? Now, your thoughts on that? Does this all make sense? And what are your thoughts on that? Ji Yashpa bete, are you with us? Can you hear me, Yashpa?
Yes.
All right. Does this all make sense to you? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Would
A
you like
little bit.
a little bit what? You would like to disagree a bit?
Yeah, obviously any media that is presented for ratings or for any wrong reason, although it doesn't make sense to me right now how it associates with the economy theory, but anything that is done out of, it is immoral and unethical, and even if it's not associated to this, it is wrong regardless.
Yeah, so do you see how all of this is aligned with the postulate of political economy theory?
Not really.
Not really, that's okay. Would you like to read the postulate for me that you see on the screen? Would you like to read it aloud?
The focus of political economy theorists is on how the processes of content production and distribution are economically and industrially constrained.
Very good. So if a media owner or media practitioner is more concerned about his monetary gains as compared to public service, as compared to serving public, do you think he's being economically industrially constrained? Like he's thinking more about his economic gains as compared to his job. Like there are these sort of
Then it's all right, I guess. Then
yeah,
it makes, yeah,
that
now that you've explained it, okay, then it's associated and related, because if you want money out of it, then
yeah,
obviously ratings are going to get you money and advertisement.
very good. So this theory, these theories, political economy theories, they have trouble with media owners, media practitioners, unethical capital attempts. Does this make sense? Ji Fasi Bete, Shah Murad, does this all make sense to you, Shah Murad?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
ma'am, it does.
All right, very good. Let me move to my next slide now. These are questions that political economy theorists they address. Why do some forms of culture dominate prime time television schedules, whereas other forms are absent? Like we see in our news channels during the prime time, we see talk shows where we see political opponents engaging in heated conversation, and sometimes the conversation gets really harsh. And people, I mean, why is it that and one channel does this and then other channel follows the same thing, the same style, and then there is this continuation, all channels are following sort of same style, and they are against the same pursuit. Does audience taste alone explain those differences, or can other less obvious reasons be linked to the interests of economic institutions? I mean, if you ask these media practitioners, they would argue that this is what people want. We are making what people want. For a really long time, Pakistani film industry was accused of making films on Mola Jat. And movie producers, they would argue, yeah, we are giving people what they want. But there is again another side, a flip side of the story. Media, this is media's job to raise people's taste, to uplift people's taste, and media, we do not see media to perform its job. And these theorists, political economy theorists, they criticize growing privatization of media, the decline of public service media institutions, and centralization of media ownership. By centralization, we mean, for example, I have a media corporation, I run a media corporation, and at the same time, I publish magazines, weekly magazines, I publish newspapers, I own radio channel, I own TV channel, like, and it is centralized. I think Dunia News Group presents a very good example of centralized media ownership. Like the base is same. I mean, there is just one owner, base is same, and it has all offshoots coming out of the same base. Now, with this, I have finished my today's lecture. But I am running out of time. There are only 3 minutes left for this class. What I'm going to do is, if we run out of time, please use the same link to come back so that I can do your attendance. Let me use this time to take your questions, and I'll not do the recording for the next session. I have done the recording of this session only. To repeat recording does not mean that students do not come to classes. I am being considerate to those students who may sometimes not attend class because of power or internet issues. But again, this does not mean that you do not come to classes. Your questions. To repeat, when we run out of the time, please join back in using the same link so that I can do your attendance. I'm not doing your attendance for now. After I log out, join back, and then I'll do your attendance. But your questions, please.
Ma'am, can you please elaborate these 3 points which are showing on the screen?
Sure. Okay, Vajiha bete, let me begin. To repeat, if I run out of time, please do not worry, because we'll be back joining the same link. Okay?
Sure, ma'am, sure.
So PE theorists are political economy theorists. They criticize, like, this is their focus. This is what they emphasize. They criticize growing privatization of media. Privatization means that, oh my God, I have a lot of messages. Yeah, thank you for sharing all of these comments, Hassan. I think they are very helpful. Growing privatization means that, again, it is related to centralization of media ownership. These two, the number 1 and number 3, are more or less the same. I can give you the example from Dunia News. So they have the central company is same. The information is centralized, which means Dunia News, they publish newspapers, they publish magazines, they have radio channel, their campus radio. They have radio channels. With that, they also have TV channel. So this is news is centralized, information is centralized. We do not see diversity of opinions. We do not see pluralism of ideas or multiplicity of ideas. And political economist theories, they are against it, because they strongly believe that those who own base and those who own capital, they have the tendency to exploit their workers, and they have the tendency to exploit messages as well. And they also have trouble with public service media institutions, the decline. They argue that media's role to serve public has declined. Instead, media organizations in our contemporary context are more inclined toward making profit. We have run out of time. Let me log out and then log back in, and then I'll ask you further, Vajia, if you have questions. Okay?